everyone, Sidewin here, and today I'm going to be talking about classes which make good tanks in Pathfinder. The definition here is a class which can manipulate the battlefield and control enemies while also being able to take hits. Unlike a video game, tank classes do not call in aggro on them. This is not a thing in Pathfinder. So, some quick summaries of classes which make good tanks. There are two classes which make good tanks pretty much regardless of what build choices you make. These are the Champion and the Monk. The Champion is a good choice for this because they automatically have high armor proficiency and heavy armor. They are heavily encouraged to use a shield as well. The Monk is similar in that it also has maximum armor proficiency. The main summaries of these two classes are that the Champion is a divine servant which is blessed by a deity. The Monk is a martial artist. There are also two other classes which, with specific build choices, can make good tanks. These are the kineticist and the fighter. The kineticist is an elemental mage class, whereas the fighter is a skilled warrior. The kineticist is magic, whereas the fighter is completely non-magical. In fact, out of this list, the only class which cannot gain magic is the fighter. So, Class 1, the Champion. In addition to their excellent armor proficiency, champions also have reactions and healing. Note here that I am only covering good champions. So the first ability which makes a good champion an interesting tank pick is that they have Lay on Hands, which allows them to heal. This is mostly an out-of-combat feature, but it can also function in combat some. In addition, each champion's subclass has access to a reaction, which allows them to aid their allies. For instance, the Liberator subclass allows an ally to move. This is a reaction which occurs when someone is struck. This can allow an ally to move out of the way. There are similar features for each subclass. So if you want a principal character who follows their deity's edicts, and heavy armor, healing, and reactions appeal to you, the Champion is a good pick. The Monk, in contrast, can be either strength or dexterity based. Strength-based tank monks typically use Mountain Stance, which is a stance which ends if the monk moves. This is the most typical pick. It is good for a monk that wants to guard a certain area. If you want a more mobility-focused monk, which is not quite as much of a tank, you can instead go for dexterity. However, strength is necessary for athletics, which provides maneuvers. So if a martial artist character appeals, if you want to play a martial artist, play a monk. The class that I'm going to cover next is the kineticist. The kineticist is an elemental mage which can select between different elements. They can either select 2 at level 1 or 1. If you select only 1, you get an additional benefit whenever you use a impulse, which is the kineticist spells, that takes 2 or more actions. 4 elements which I think could make a good tank are wood, water, earth, and metal. 3 of these provide some sort of AC bonus, and 3 of them also provide battlefield manipulation. 2 of them also have healing abilities. I have separate videos for wood, water, and metal kineticists, and I will likely make one for earth in the future. So if you are interested in any of them, please go to that video. So the kineticist is a good pick for a tank character if you want a character which uses magic and is also a tank. This is a character which focuses on magic but does not have limited use abilities, unlike all other casters in Pathfinder. The final class I'm going to cover for tanks is the fighter. To be a tank, fighters must be melee. This is the first build choice you have to make if you're going to be playing a tank fighter. In addition, dual weapon fighters do not work well because those are sacrificing utility or AC for more damage. So the first reason fighters can make a tank is because they start with Attack of Opportunity. They're the only class in the game which gets this at level 1. This allows them to strike enemies which move past them or interact with objects near them, amongst other options. This allows fighters to control the battlefield and get enemies' attention. So there's two ways to take advantage of this. One is to do a sword and board fighter. This is not necessarily using a literal sword and a literal board. This refers to a fighter which uses a shield and a one-handed melee weapon. You could choose a sword if you wanted, but there are other weapons which can also work. One thing to consider is reach weapons. You could choose a two-handed polearm, have reach, and then focus on maneuvers which the weapon allows you to do over the whole range, for instance. This is the other main option for a tank fighter. A fighter using a shield and one-handed weapon can also have reach if they're willing to use a weapon like the whip. However, this weapon provides lower damage. A final thing I'm going to mention in this video is the War Priest. The War Priest is a good secondary tank. If you want this type of character who is fully a tank, you want to play a champion. However, the War Priest can be a good secondary tank. They have access to heavy armor eventually and martial weapons, allowing them to function similarly to a martial while still being a caster. However, they are spellcasters and are spellcasting focused. So if you want a tanky caster in particular, and by this I'm meaning spell slots, the kineticist is a good option if you do not want spell slots. The War Priest is a good pick. In addition, their support spells can provide certain things which can make it up for tanks. That is all for today. If you have any additional question or comment, please ask below, and I will see you in the future.